that's what we have. We have the present moment. And so I don't really like to bank on a certain expected future, because as I experienced with my mom, she died at 49. So, I would have thought she lived a long time, but that doesn't always happen. So I don't think it's a good idea to sacrifice a potential future for a present that's right in front of you.
Bed, love,
bed, love,
beyond. Bed, love, beyond. Bed, love, beyond.
Welcome to Bed Love Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater in us to discuss sex, love, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo with love like us. And today's episode is episode 91, A Numbers Game. Does age really matter in a relationship? If you have a topic you want us to explore or have any questions you want to ask, you can write us at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com or text us at 201-862-8BED. That is 201-862-8233. All right, and today we are going to have a guest. Unfortunately, Jennifer couldn't be here, but she will definitely be on the next podcast. But we have two guests. It's Bruce Mulkey and Shonnie Lavender, and they are a married couple, and they have quite the age gap, but I will save their interview for later in the show, because I just want to talk about the articles that I've found on this subject, which is pretty interesting. There seems to be just age gaps, and me and Jennifer, we were talking about this a while back. And we wanted to know, does age really matter in a relationship, or you can just look past that? I went to this website. This is www.thisisinsider.com to just look at some of celebrities that have a real big age gap. So let's just start off this list here. And the first one is Adam Levine. Of course, you know him. And he's 38. With his girl, Batahi Prinsloo, and she's 28, so they have a 10-year gap. This couple also has a 10-year gap. Liam Payne, who's from One Direction, he's 24, and his girl Cheryl Cole, she's 34, and they both have a child with each other. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they have an 11-year age gap. Blake is 30, Ryan is 40. This one is a little weird, just because. Not even the age gap, just the ages. So this is an 11-year gap. So Ariel Winter, she's the youngest girl on Modern Family, the younger daughter. She's 19, and her man is Levi Meaden, and he's 30. So even though it's an 11-year gap, it's like 1930s. Like, whoa, what do you guys even talk about? It seems like she's still like a little baby, even though 11 years. 11 years does sound pretty big, but still. We have Jay-Z and Beyonce. Jay-Z's 47, Beyonce's 36. It's a 12-year gap. Hugh Jackman is 48, and his wife, Deborah Lee Furness, is 61, so they have a 13-year gap. Amal Clooney is 39 years old, and George Clooney is 56 with a 17-year gap. Rose Hunting Whiteley is 30, and Jason Statham is 50, which is a 20-year gap. Harrison Ford and Calista Flockhart. Harrison Ford is 75, Calista Flockhart is 52, 22-year gap. Sam and Aaron Taylor Johnson, 23-year gap. Sam is 50 and Aaron Taylor Johnson is 27. Aaron Taylor Johnson played Quicksilver in the Avengers movies, Avengers Age of Ultron, and also he was Kick-Ass. And Sam Taylor Johnson, I believe, directed the first 50 Shades of Grey. I could be wrong about that. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones has a 25-year age gap. Michael Douglas is 72. Catherine Zeta-Jones is 47. Patrick Stewart and Sonny Ozell. Patrick Stewart is 77. Sonny Ozell is 38, which equals 38-year gap. And Arlene Silver is 45. And Dick Van Dyke is 91. Okay, 46-year gap. So that is crazy. That is insane. It really is. So with all these different age gaps. I wonder, like what I said before with Ariel Winter and Levi Meaden, what do you guys talk about? What can you have in common? Because you guys are literally in different generations. What do you do? And I saw this article from Old School Throwback, EliteDaily.com, and they're talking about that age doesn't matter. It's more maturity. Okay? So what this says is, the heart wants what the heart wants is a cliche that couldn't be more accurate. We truly can't help with whom we fall in love with. Love doesn't care if someone is older or younger, but we certainly do. Maybe he's 30 and you are 20, but he is just as confused about life as you are about yours. It might be scary having a 10-year difference in age, but you both are experiencing similar things in life. I don't see why that number should stop the blossoming between two lovebirds. Of course, he has seen more days on this earth, but that doesn't mean he understands where he stands in life more than you do. If you both want the same thing from the relationship, then you have settled half the battle. Just like the couples who are the same age, if you aren't on the same page, things will be just as difficult. Experiences happen to people at different times in life, causing some to grow up faster or slower than the norm. You can be 24 years old with the mindset of a 45-year-old or vice versa. Allow love to work its mysterious magic if you find yourself having a special connection with someone who is older or younger than you. Explore it and let it grow beautifully. So that sounds pretty sound. Yeah, you can be young in age, but old in spirit, which is why some people say that you have an old soul. Like a young person will say, "Oh, you have an old soul," because that person is a lot older mentally than what their age beholds them to be. So I can understand that. But still, though, man, those age gaps, whoo, my goodness, it's insane. That's why I can't wait for you to I can't wait to get into the conversation with Bruce and Shonnie, because they have a lovely story with each other, and their age gap really did not deter them from falling madly in love with each other and still being in love with each other. Like, you should hear them just speak so fondly of each other. It's really good. I only wish to have a love like that, age gap or not. Just finding your other or your special person is one of like my life's, I don't know, goals, dreams. I would love to attain something like that. So maybe you shouldn't hold yourself back because the person is super young. Just make sure that the person's legal, obviously. I'm not trying to go in jail no matter how much in love I can be. No way. None of that. But the next article is from newrepublic.com, and it says that even though love may tell you to go on and venture with somebody who is not of your age with a huge age difference, science does not support the 7-age rule. So what is the 7-age rule? Well, let's get into it. So this article from newrepublic.com says, the rule also appears in the biography of Malcolm X. In the 1950s, Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad taught that a wife's ideal age was half the man's age plus 7. This age gap should make up for women's maturing more quickly than men, as well as ensure that the husband was sufficiently authoritative over his wife. When Malcolm X met his future wife, Betty Sanders, he interpreted the fact that their ages fit the rule of 7 as a sign that they were destined for each other. Muhammad might not have been the most reliable relationship counselor, though. He was also concerned about height disparity. A tall man married to a too short woman, or vice versa, looked odd and not matched, he preached. Uh-oh. Jennifer's in trouble if this is to be true, because she's like 4'11", and her man is considerably taller than her. So no, but they're fine for each other. I'm just joking, Jennifer. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot more articles on this on the website. It was very interesting to find out all these things that I was learning about the maturity factor and the age gap, and how many people had a difference in their age gap and how it affected their relationships towards each other. But of course, there's only so much that you can read into. So I was very happy that I got Bruce and Shonnie to be on the guest and just tell me from a realistic point of view, how does this age gap affect your relationship and your life. And I'm so glad that I got him on the podcast. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Bed Love Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater in us to discuss sex, love, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo, in love, like us. And today we have two special guests, Bruce Mulkey and Shonnie Lavender. How are you guys doing today?
Very well.
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. And thank you for being a guest on this topic, because I mean, we've always heard about this stuff in Hollywood, where there's an age gap and stuff. So it's really cool for you guys to be on the show to like explain what the, I guess, phenomenon would be about the May-December relationship. And I didn't even know that was an actual term. I had to look it up. And the May-December relationship term goes like this: generally considered to be an unconventional choice, a May-December marriage is one in which one spouse is significantly older than the other spouse, and significantly older is usually considered 11 years or more age difference. May refers to the younger spouse in the spring of life, while December refers to the older spouse who is in what is described as the winter of life. So, what is the age gap between you guys?
28 years.
28 years.
That so we're taking that 11 and more than doubling it, almost tripling it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That is amazing. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, Bruce, you are an essayist and an author. What exactly do you write about?
I write about a lot of different things. I've written about racism. I'm writing a piece in my head right now about sexism and misogyny in the patriarchal society in which we live.
Okay.
I wrote a piece. I've written political pieces. I've written op-eds. I've written personal essays. And right now, I'm writing a memoir that hopefully will be published in 2018 with the working title, A Tale of Two Daughters. The true story of one man and his two daughters born 42 years apart.
That's mind-boggling. Wow, that is awesome. So, Shonnie, I've seen on your website you have classes for parents tired of struggling. Can you please go into that and elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a parent coach, so I work specifically with conscious moms around the world to really parent without using old-style techniques, relying on fear and shame and punishment. And it's a lot of fun, and I get to practice my learning side of it every day because we have a 7-year-old daughter.
Oh, okay. And how's that? How's raising her?
It's awesome.
That's great.
It's awesome. You talked about unconventional, and as Bruce was talking about with his memoir working title, he's got these daughters that, again, were born more than 4 decades apart. And so he's been down this road once and has some experience, which is nice. And yet it's also something that I think, based on who we are and also the fact that we do come from different generations and different life experience, is it really gives us a lot of strength as a couple in parenting, because we are coming from different perspectives and different ways of being in different backgrounds. So and I think, frankly, that's also a strength of our relationship, the two of us, that couples who sometimes are closer in age don't actually always have.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So 28-year gap. At what ages did you guys meet?
It's a good question. Let's see. We met when I was 24.
Okay.
24.
And I think I was 52 or 53. We met in a marathon training group. And actually ran together for over a year in our training group. And of course, we were running miles and miles ultimately up to 20 miles together. And our motto was, if you're running too fast to chat, you're running too fast. So, we had a lot of time to get to know one another and to
form a friendship.
Yeah. So, we were friends before we became romantically involved.
Okay, so Shonnie, what did you think at your age? What did you think about this older gentleman hitting on you?
Well, it's funny you ask it that way because, see, that's an assumption, and that is the way that, and I think that's what actually, the Hollywood stereotype is, right? Yeah. It's the older man and the younger ingenue, right?
Right.
We are so not Hollywood, so actually, there was a mutual attraction, and yet I was definitely the one who took more initiative. So you'd have to ask Bruce how he felt about a younger woman hitting on him.
Okay, so Bruce, what's going on? What did you think about Shonnie hitting on you?
Well, I had been through a divorce and we were living in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And I lived in a little cottage in the hills outside of Austin, without female companionship for the first time almost in my life. And was there for 5 years with my cat. And during that time, I drew up a list of the qualities that I'd like to have in my next mate.
Uh-huh.
And so I had this long list. But I've narrowed, and about 8 or 10 of the qualities were non-negotiable. But there was nothing in there about age, interestingly enough.
Huh. Okay.
And I'll also add that, I definitely did not know Bruce's age. So I remember, in fact, talking to my boss about him one day and telling her that I had ended a relationship, and so she was, we were just talking about relationships, and I said, well, yeah, there is this guy I like, I find really interesting. He's in my running group, and so we were just talking, like, well, tell me more about him. And so I said, well, I don't know. He's 40, 50. I didn't know because Bruce, as you can imagine, if he's in training for a marathon, he was quite fit and healthy, and so I didn't know. And at one level, frankly, I don't really care because it's just not ever been something that has been a significant factor in my mind in terms of, like, oh, that's something I think I want somebody to be about my age. That just never was something when I dated people. Mm-hmm. That just wasn't a consideration I had.
Okay. So with Bruce, you were saying that you had a laundry list of, like, non-negotiable things and things that your next mate would hit. Can you say like any of them? Do you remember them? Any of the non-negotiables?
Well, yeah, probably some of them off the top of my head. I mean, one of them was, that she would like the outdoors and enjoy running and hiking and those kinds of things.
Okay.
One of them was devoted to emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth.
Mm.
One of them was someone who would not always expect me to be at my best because, just because.
Right.
And someone who was physically attractive.
Right. Okay, so do you, I guess since you made it, I guess you are pro list, but do you feel that you should follow a list? Or how about if you, like, met somebody and then they didn't meet the list, but you were like, this person is amazing. Like, what do you do? Well, this is just a personal question.
Like I said, there were some non-negotiables in there.
Right.
Another one was, she would support me in my purpose in life. And I would do likewise. And so, yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, if there were someone who came along who didn't meet the non-negotiables, it would be a non-starter.
Oh, wow. Okay. So keep to if you make a list, keep to it, I guess.
Well, that's my theory. I mean, it works for me. Now, other folks might, there's I can't remember who said this, but the two questions to ask yourself when you're at a point in your life like I was, where are you going, and who's going with you? And don't get those questions in the reverse order. Answer the first one first and the second one second.
Wow. Okay. Good advice. Thank you for that. Okay. So at the beginning, was it hard for you guys to find a common ground coming from two generations? Two different generations.
Because we had the similarities. So we had the shared love of running, and so we had that common interest, and so that's really where we started our relationship. And then, as Bruce was mentioning, through all those long runs and pancake breakfasts with our small running group of 8, we got to be friends. And so we did find those shared things. So we both had, spiritual interests, progressive political interests, things like that. So those things, to me, don't necessarily stay in one generation. Those are, an outlook on life, a mindset, those types of things. So that's really where we started. And frankly, some of the generational differences got to be funny. Bruce would always joke. He'd say, I'm like a living history lesson for you. Because, I'd say, what was it like during the 60s, or and he'd tell me. So that actually was quite fun for us,
right?
And in the reverse too, that we could actually rather than seeing that as something that separated us, seeing it as a way that we could come together and be, in a way, influential and interesting to the other person.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does.
There's an interesting story about our first time together, just the two of us.
Okay.
Our running group. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Our running group, we would run together 3 times a week. And we'd go out for breakfast after our long Saturday mornings. And we had decided that we would extend our social life together somewhat, and we would go out that night and hear some music and have a few beers. And so we were sitting around the table having our pancakes and coffee after our long run one Saturday, having made that group decision. And everyone, one at a time, backed out, except me and Shonnie.
Right.
And we looked at each other and said, well, do you want to go ahead and do this? And we just, yeah, what the hell, let's go ahead. And so we did, and it wound up before the evening was over, having the excitement and awkwardness of a first date.
Yeah, even though that's what, we weren't going into it with that mindset.
Right.
We were friends, it had a group outing, and so we were like, oh, well, sure, let's go ahead and do it. And even though nobody else is coming, it's just going to be us friends. And so, yeah, it was, to me, that was a very natural progression. And I think that's also one of the reasons our relationship has worked so well. We've been together as a couple since 1996, and living together since 97. So we've been together 20 years, married for 17.
Right. That's great. So, Shonnie, what did your father or parents think about dating a guy possibly as old as them?
Of course, you're going to cover out to that. That's right.
I got to.
I have, and I can make it even more interesting. So I have had two dads. They're both now deceased.
Okay.
But I had my dad and then my stepdad,
okay.
Both whom I was, really close with, and they both were really uncomfortable with it. So Bruce was a little bit older than my stepdad. I mean, 6 months to a year older.
Okay.
And then my dad was just a couple years older than Bruce.
Right.
So, so for them, I think they definitely had, sort of this stereotypical idea that probably many people listening to this would think too, would be like, oh, here's some, leering old codger. I mean, Bruce wasn't at that time, he wasn't old codger age, right? But, that kind of mindset where it's like, oh, it's this, depraved old guy going after some young trophy wife.
Roy Moore.
Right.
So, they definitely had that. They had the added piece of, at one level, something that I can appreciate, that, being my fathers, they were concerned about my well-being and my welfare. And for them, that really played into, wait, is this guy going to be able to take care of you?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be taking care of him? And fortunately or unfortunately for my parents, my mom had died, I guess about 5 years. She died when I was 21 of cancer. And the last few months of her life, I had come home from college to help take care of her. And, she was bedridden and on morphine and things like that. And so I had that experience of, literally taking care of someone who, she wasn't very old, but she couldn't take care of herself. And for me, I just really had a different outlook on it. It was like they were looking at it from a standpoint of, boy, we don't want this for you. And of course, I don't either. And yet, I also don't see that as something that makes a relationship negative because somebody either has some incapacity or, somehow they're not as, physically vibrant as they once were. To me, that's only one small part of what makes up another human being. So that just, again, that was sort of like they're talking to me and saying, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, well, then if that happens, then we'll deal with it. But we were happy now, happy in the present. And to me, that's what's most important, because that's what we have. We have the present moment. And so I don't really like to bank on a certain expected future, because as I experienced with my mom, she died at 49. So, I would have thought she lived a long time, but that doesn't always happen. So I don't believe it's really, I don't think it's a good idea to sacrifice a potential future for a present that's right in front of you.
Oh, wow. That's nice. What is one thing that you guys like about the other?
Can we have a big pause here so it sounds really awkward? Well, one of the things there's so many things that I love about Bruce. One of the things, though, that sort of relates to where we are in our life, sort of cycle and span right now, are two things, actually. One, that he is such a really intentional dad and is such the kind of parent that I love partnering with. He's really, really mindful, and we take our parenting very seriously, and that's a priority. So that's probably the thing that matters most to me in terms of our overall relationship. But then another piece, like what he mentioned earlier, he totally supports me in terms of the things that I care about in life and the things that I'm wanting to do, to make my mark in the world. He's 100% behind me. And to me, when I think of what's the kind of partner I want to be with, boy, isn't that a gift to have somebody who's completely your champion. So those would be two things that come straight to the top of my mind that I love about him.
Bruce, it's your turn.
Yeah.
All of that.
Follow that. I'm going to bask in the afterglow for a moment here.
Take it in.
Yeah.
It's the nicest thing I've said to him all day.
Well, several of the things that I love about Shonnie are her big heart. And again, the intentionality and purposefulness and love that she parents our daughter with. That's, I can't speak for Shonnie, but Graceland, our 7-year-old, who was born when I was 67, by the way, it's the most important thing that I'm doing in my life right now, because it not only affects her, but my belief is the way we parent our children affects all of us and affects the kind of world we're going to have in the years to come.
Mm-hmm.
I admire your perseverance and your sense of service to the mothers of the world, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And I get that it's not bringing a whole lot of money in right this moment, but I get that you support me in my writing, which is really important to me, because, it's the book that I'm writing. It's been a journey of self-exploration. It's also an artifact that I want to leave behind for my kids and grandkids. And, and I think it can serve as a wake-up call to men especially, but not only men and their partners. So thank you for that.
So Bruce, I was reading a little bit of your memoir passage from your website, and it said, my memoir recounts two tales of fatherhood, one that began in 1968 when the Vietnam War was raging, Bobby and Martin were assassinated, and manhood was modeled after Mad Men's Don Draper. The other in 2010 when the Middle East was aflame, Barack Obama was the first black president, and I suddenly found myself in a role not unlike Jay Pritchett, Modern Family's aging patriarch. So, like you said before, your two daughters are 42 years apart. What's it like becoming a father again at this stage in your life? And also, what do your two daughters think of each other?
I'm going to hit the last one first.
Okay.
First of all, Lila, my older daughter, who turns 50 next year, is older than Shonnie. But she was very accepting of Shonnie. And during a visit there, Lila, my older daughter, carried Graceland, my younger daughter, around her neighborhood, introducing her as her sister. And, that's been several years ago, but it was in that moment I said, okay, she's really on board with this.
Right.
And what was the first part of the question? What was it like to have a child at age 67?
Yeah, what's it like becoming a father again at this stage in your life?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that being a father at 25, I was ill prepared, emotionally, in almost every other way. I was self-absorbed. I was into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll of the 60s. And so, and even so, I knew that there was something I wanted for Lila. I knew there was something I wanted for my daughter,
right,
who was born in 68. Even in the midst of all my stuff, she, through her lovability and could kind of awaken me to the softer parts of myself. Now, fast forward 42 years to Grayson was born in 2010. I was in a much different space personally.
Right.
Than I was in when I was 25. I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 beers during a week, maybe more occasionally.
But I'm going to interject, actually. I think one thing that might be interesting to know is that we had not originally planned to have children. So, because Bruce had the idea, he's like, I'm done that. And, it wasn't like this bad thing, like, I'm never doing it again. He wasn't running away from it. He just is like, yeah, I've done that part of my life.
Right.
And I was in a place where I really didn't know. I definitely was not absolute that I had to have children. But it wasn't completely sealed off. So we spent the first whatever number, math's not my strong suit, from 99 to 2009, not planning to have children. And so that was something that was new for us. And so, I think that's also a piece. It's like, that's that piece of, you don't know what the future will hold. So, Bruce thankfully was open. We said what we had agreed upon at the beginning of 2009 was, okay, we won't try and try to get me pregnant. We will just see if I get pregnant. So no birth control, but no, trying to figure out fertile periods, anything like that.
Right.
And so we just said, well, okay, we'll see what happens. So we went all the way through 2009, and we got into December of 2009, not getting pregnant. And we were actually in the Caribbean on taking ourselves on a Christmas vacation. And I kept having to wake up and pee in the middle of the night, which I thought was really odd. But, it's like, I don't know anything about that. And so I decided when we got back home after Christmas, I said, I don't know, maybe, I'll just get this pregnancy test. And so I got a pregnancy test. And so I announced to Bruce on the morning of January 1st, which is an auspicious day in our relationship history. I came out of the bathroom with the stick, as they say, and I said, I'm pregnant. And he was flabbergasted. I was pretty surprised. And yet I knew in that moment, I was like, oh, absolutely, this is what I want. And, I was delighted and excited, and really just, it was very clear to me that, yeah, absolutely, this is what I wanted. And Bruce was excited. He said, Jesus, my boys are still swimming. So he was shocked, and it took him a little bit, but really we went almost immediately for a walk in the woods near our home, and sort of marveled at, wow, isn't that amazing? Because I was 37, and so I know there are many couples that really strive. I'm actually adopted, so my parents couldn't have children, and so a lot of couples really strive to have children, and for some of them, they probably don't like hearing our story because it seems maybe a little unfair, but
right.
To me, that was just that confirmation, like, okay, I guess that's what's meant to be, and it really has been for us. Again, not something we had originally planned,
right? Yeah.
And now that we're here, it's like, I think that's that part of really trusting life to, take you where you're meant to go, and to pay attention to, what comes before you and what comes into your life. And I think that's one of the things that both Bruce and I did, maybe a little bit unconsciously early on, but, because we weren't dissuaded by an age difference once we both actually discovered what that was, because he, like me, he didn't know, my real age.
Right.
It was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that is a little weird. And, you could get creeped out about it if you're like, oh, he was 28 and you were 0, that sounds creepy. But,
yeah.
But so, you can go that place, but if you're willing to, hang with it and say, well, wait a minute, is that weird, or is that just, sort of the convention we've made of society, and again, thinking of a certain type of man and a certain type of, girl usually is sort of, again, that's the stereotypical place we go. And so we just trusted. We were like, hey, this is working now, and we seem to be a really good fit together, and we'll just see where it goes. And that's what led us to where we are at now. And gosh, I'm so thankful. I mean, I wouldn't trade a minute of it, for what we have today and what we've been able to create and experience together.
That is
and
good.
I'll add something onto that. I'm 74, and I still play handball and go on occasional trail runs, and I'm healthy, disease free. I take one med per a day, and my intention is to see my 7-year-old daughter into adulthood, and not and not to do it is some feeble old coot, but to
Right.
do it, in a powerful way. And, so far so good. Again, like Shonnie said, you never know what the future is going to hold.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm right on track. We're right on track.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna need your. You're gonna have to email me your workout regimen because I want to do handball at 74 years old too. But what advice would you give to people who might be hesitant in engaging in a relationship where there is a big gap like yours?
I would say sort of what I was saying is, really attempt to look past, the numbers. Don't get freaked out and be like, oh, that's weird, or, ooh, when you were this age, I was doing that, it's like,
Right.
that's just creepy. Um, and look more to sort of what Bruce was talking about earlier in terms of what are you really wanting in a relationship, and is it a healthy relationship? I mean, all relationships have their ups and downs no matter what, so don't get hung up on that either, but really say, what are you going for, where are you going in life, and who is going to go with you, and as best you can in that moment, knowing that things will change and things you won't have guessed will also happen, but make that best decision from there, and don't let the age thing dissuade you, because to me, again, that's just one factor of many. If you think, oh, well, that person won't be able to keep up with me or do whatever, it's like, well, maybe, or you just don't know. So are the other qualities that person brings to your life and that you bring to their life, is that something magical and something that works and works for both of you? And if so, tell everybody else to kiss off and follow your hearts.
There's a author we read a parenting book, and one of his lines that I like best is, "We're raising little heretics." And and when you get right down to it, we're heretics too, and I'm not talking about a religion here so much, but to not give a whole lot of power to the dominant cultural paradigm. I mean, just because it's common knowledge or common wisdom, that means very little. It was common wisdom once that women should stay at home and keep house and take care of the kids, and the guys were the ones who were supposed to go out and bring home the bacon, and so a lot of that stuff has already been proven to be false. I think you take those kinds of beliefs with a grain of salt, including the belief about age difference in relationships and the time at which you might father a child, for that matter.
That's true. All right. We are nearing the end of the podcast, but before we go, I would like you guys to tell our audience where they can find you for more information on what you guys do.
Sure, we'd be delighted. So for folks who want to find out more about me and me in general, but the parenting work I do, they can find me at ShonnieLavender.com, and that's ShonnieLavender.com, just like the herb and the color. I also have a YouTube channel. I do a lot of videos. I like to talk, so and I have a Facebook group as well, the Conscious Mom Circle. So yeah, feel free to look me up there. And I like to talk relationships in general and family relationships specifically. So thanks for that opportunity.
And you can find samples of my writing and a little bit about the memoir that I'd mentioned at brucemulkey.com, and that's BRUCEMULKEY.com.
All right, beautiful. Thank you guys so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Martini, for the opportunity.
Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got you some laughs, and it was just an enjoyable conversation.
Yeah,
look forward to hearing it, seeing it online.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
You bet.
Our pleasure.
All right, take care, guys.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Shonnie and Bruce, Bruce Mulkey and Shonnie Lavender. All right, that's a great story. 28 years. So you see, you shouldn't what is it? You shouldn't limit yourself. You could, people would think that like a 5 or 6 year gap was crazy, but nope. They're doing it 28-year gap. That's pretty good. So you could find love anywhere, anyhow. That's pretty cool. So we send it out to you now, the audience. Would you want to? What is your ideal age gap if you had to have one, or what is your limit? Like you're not gonna go that high or not gonna go that low. Please write us in at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com. You can go to our website www.bedlovebeyond.com to see all the articles that I mentioned earlier in this podcast. You can give us a call or text us at 201-862-8-BED. That is 201-862-8233. You can text us a topic, or you can text us your answer, or email us your answer, or phone us your answer about the age gap. You can go to facebook.com/bedlovebeyond to talk about this episode with all of our other fans. And you can follow us at bedlovebeyond on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. That is the end of the show. Thank you for listening to us on Podbean, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. Please rate, review, like, and subscribe to us on any of the devices that you listen to. All right? Thank you so much, guys. All right. Take care.